Okay.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the Audit Committee meeting of June 16, 2011. Louise, could we have roll call, please?
Sure. Mayor Darby?
Here.
Vice Mayor Whitmer?
Here.
Rose Hart? Jim Axie?
Here.
Wendy Lamb? Greg Conlon. He will be late.
He's supposed to be late. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, public comments. Seeing that there's nobody from the public, we will not have any public comments today in this meeting. Item number 3, approval minutes of the March 17th meeting. Anybody have any comments, revisions, anything to note? Corrections?
I'll move that we approve that.
Second?
I have a question. Did we not ask, or maybe this is an action item, did we not ask at the last meeting for a report from the building department regarding the funds?
Well,
We
have it written, but it's also in the audit report that we can actually just, I'd like to discuss that more in detail, so it's there.
Aye.
Did the Vice Mayor did the second? You did?
Yeah, I seconded it.
Okay.
But we're not supposed to be jumping in on Rose. In the last meeting, Rose asked.
No, please, everybody jump in. This is
I apologize.
her little. It's your natural instinct under these circumstances, but it's fine. I was just kidding. Okay, item number 4. Greg Conlon, who is en route, wanted us to defer this until after he wanted to be part of this discussion. So he asked that we put item number 5 first, so that we can go ahead and discuss that and take it time. Does anybody have any objections to moving this item forward? So, Jim, Bill, this was your...
the number 5?
Yes.
Yeah, I spoke with...
No. Can we discuss that first before we...
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Okay, so, a while ago, we spoke about we have the money in the bank, and that it actually would be to our benefit to go ahead and make it an irrevocable trust. There was concern that if we did that, of course, with potential personnel changes, we may be funding or possibly slightly overfunding. I spoke with Louise about it a couple days ago, and first off, we've got obligations not only for the current employees, but for past employees. And some of this was based on the past employees. A lot of it was based on past employees. And even though we have current employees who may or may not be here throughout the full fiscal year, some of them will be able to take retirement and have health care. And if we overfund at some point in time, there will still be other employees that are going to eventually matriculate out. And I think it would be in our best interest to go ahead and just do the final step in this motion is to make this an irrevocable trust and get us out of having to reevaluate taking the steps that we have to do, with the state. And so I asked Louise, this was going to be on the meeting, I think in March, and John asked us to take it off, but I've asked for it to be put back on, given that we're a lot closer to making a decision now. We kind of know where we are with regards to the negotiations that are going on and things like that. And I think it's time that we actually take this step.
I couldn't agree more. Kathy and Susan and I were the ones that brought this operation, because we feel that we have these obligations. There's no question. In the past, we were not funding, and they were just rolling them. Every year we roll these, not only do we not pay them, but the next year they actually cost us more money than paying them now. And this is what you pointed out. So I am totally in support of making this irrevocable, because it's got to be paid, and I don't think we're overfunding, but if we are overfunding, it's still our money. It means we don't need to pay so much the following year. So I'm all in favor of that.
Any other discussion? Oh, I guess I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's okay. Well, what amount are we talking about? And I'd like to hear from John. What he thinks, what some issues might be for not funding presently. I'd like to hear some of the other, not that you represent another side, but maybe some other facts that you might know.
That's correct. I had asked that this be delayed until we had a better concept of the total number of employees that would be remaining. I'm much more comfortable about we're getting closer to that final number. I was concerned at the time, too, that we were in a budget crunch and that would it be better to, I was worried we were going to superfund doing it. I'm more comfortable about that now that we're judiciously looking at it. We have a pretty good idea of what our total numbers are going to be, and we'll just move cautiously. Because once that money goes, it's gone forever.
No, we understand.
And that was my only hesitation, and not knowing where things were going to run. So I think we're at a point now where we can go ahead and start funding irrevocably into the trust.
Okay.
And it's gone forever anyway.
Yeah.
The only thing it does is, with future councils, depending on who they are, they can make it look like we've got more money than we really have. And that is very, very dangerous. If we put it in this irrevocable trust, it's gone. We owe it. We're always going to owe it. And I think it prevents any Mickey Mouse with future councils.
And I agree. I mean, we've seen already when we were going through the trash stuff, and you personally looked through that, where some overfunding of some of the bills got swept into another fund and spent, and then we had to go back and ask we will be, after we settled this allied thing, we'll be asking the citizens to pay again for what they were paying.
Yeah.
So we can't have future councils deciding that they're going to, they're in a little bit of a budget crunch, and then taking the money out, and then being a hero, and then causing downstream problems. So it really needs to be set up, and I think we need to do it now.
Yeah. And when people look at our finances, including the unions, we can look as if we've got more money than we really have, which is the wrong thing to do. So, any other discussion?
Well, I remember that this actually came up years ago in Finance Committee, I think, years ago. So it's been sitting, for this
Well, we discussed it here, too.
I don't recall. I remember it in Finance when I used to drop in, but this is when it started. The woman gave us a presentation or something. Was that? I think that was in Finance.
We didn't
but,
do it. We didn't do it.
I know you didn't do it, but
And that's when
it was a black hole.
The council said we got to do it, and I think eventually the council agreed. But I was going through this second reading.
So far I'm hearing not very many negatives regarding anything from your end, Louise, that might impact.
The town, even though it's in an irrevocable trust, but we can, if all the liability is paid off, the trust can always be dissolved and the money will go back to the town.
Can be what? Defaulted?
What can be dissolved.
Dissolved.
Yeah. My recommendation to the committee is, because this committee is only I can make recommendation, I would like to request for the committee to submit a report to the council in the July meeting and allow this to be on the council agenda for the whole council to make a decision and direct staff to explore the different option of investing the vehicle, because putting the money into a 115 trust is one thing. You want to make sure the trust meet our needs, and also what type of investments, because you can go aggressive, conservative, and all that. So anytime you invest in the market, that's always the risk, which is the gain or loss. And I think the council needs to be really fully informed and make the decision.
Well, should we make recommendations one way or the other?
Yeah, it's a recommendation.
Just keep it irrevocable, though.
Yeah,
I don't mind getting the best
Absolutely.
return on investment in it, but
Right.
But you use the word dissolve. What does that mean then? I mean, if it's
When
irrevocable.
it comes to solvent, I would assume that the trust
It's irrevocable
will be
except
resolved.
when you dissolve it.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
It doesn't work that way. No,
It's only if
all the liability.
obligation no longer exists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
if
okay.
we
So,
overfund
Okay.
it to such an extent
Right,
that we no longer owe,
right.
then we can do it.
Okay.
so I think
It'll die.
there's really two things,
Mhm.
Louise. I think that first off, there's a decision to make the trust that
Right.
we already have irrevocable.
Right.
Then the second thing is a recommendation from staff as to, what instruments it would be invested in. And the same as you're making decisions on other funds as to how to invest them and keep us surprised.
Right.
I think that really, that's not even where to invest it and how to invest it, because you're going to move it from time to time.
Yeah.
That's not really a council decision, it's a council being notified. The decision is, do we make the trust irrevocable, and we would like to make a recommendation that the council agree that it becomes irrevocable. I'm all for it.
May I clarify with the committee, do you want to go to council first to get the decision, or you want to make the recommendation for the council to make the decision, at the same time provide council with the different provider out there in the same staff report, or wait till the council make a decision before we bring forward more information?
I say, let's get the council to make a decision first, irrevocable.
Right.
That's the only thing. And then, of course, just like we do in the finance committee, we can look at different ways.
Yes.
We don't bring it to the council every time we want to invest our money. We bring it to the finance committee.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into too many things that will distract from the fact that we want to get this money paid. And that's my view. Let's get it done. The council's already pretty well agreed to it.
Right.
So let's just get a simple agenda.
I think it would be good if I can have a motion directing the staff to present a staff report to the council in July for the council to make a decision. And later on, the other one is for the staff to reach, after the council make a decision, for the staff to look at the different provider and then bring forward those options and have the finance committee make a recommendation.
So we move
the finance committee?
Finance.
Yeah.
Okay.
We move. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend for the July council meeting that the council pass an agreement that we will make the trust irrevocable, and that staff subsequently will advise the finance committee on investment options and investment
Providers
that, as it does with other trusts and funds from time to time.
Other cash assets.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So the main thing here is they're going to say yes or no on irrevocable.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all the council needs to know.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I still would like to raise an issue, it's not relevant to that. The vesting on this medical benefits, is that as being pursued as heavily as the pensions? Because one day is vesting 100%. I just think that is absolutely absurd. And I think we need to work on that. That's even worse than the pensions. Because if I work here one day, I get Medicare for life.
And then retire from here.
Yeah. Grace, so to answer your question, we already have the changes a second tier medical for everybody except APOA. That one we need to put in a second tier. We haven't, because it's...
What does that mean? I don't understand.
A second tier means the lower the benefit or even converted to a defined contribution plan. So our second tier is now you have to work here 10 years to get 50% of...
That's new employees.
Yeah, for new employee. We already put that in place.
Well, can we do that on the old ones?
No, it's invested.
No, but we could do it for the new employees going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what.
That's
all new employees.
No, you're saying, I'm not talking about new employees, I'm talking about old employees prospectively.
No.
They aren't vested. They don't vest until you earn it. So their vesting occurs after you've worked. So they've worked up to today, so they're vested for whatever number of years they have. But from this point on, they are not vested. That's a negotiable item. And I don't see why it wouldn't be just as negotiable as you are on the pensions.
You need someone who's worked here 10 years, and then from here forward, what would the...
Well, from here, if they work 10 years, then it's not an issue because they're fully vested. But for somebody that's worked here 10 days, they would have to work 10 years before they became 100% vested.
That's already in place.
Not for somebody that was already an employee at the date you switched.
Yeah.
So there's certain people that have been here less than 10
That
years.
train's left the station. You're not going to do anything about that. If someone's already vested and then you come along with...
Well, when you say vested, that doesn't mean 100%. Vesting occurs every year. If you're
No.
Well, that's the question. Does it vest over 10 years or does it vest on the 10th year?
It's great to answer. Yeah.
Go ahead.
To answer your question, for the new hire, their vesting occur 10 years after they be here and 50%.
If they're here 1 year, are they 10% vested?
No.
No,
Have to be
either
10 years to
or
get
not.
50%.
But we've had no new employees that would come into that category. So in other words, new employees from this date and there will be no other new employees.
Well, what about the present employees? What is their vesting?
Everyone who works here today is on the old system.
And what is that vesting was?
A day and you retire.
So everybody's 100% vested as presently an employee.
I believe so.
If they retire if they are age 50
The catch is you have to retire from here.
and age
too.
50 or more.
But they only get so much per year. In other words, it's 2% per year.
2% what?
2% of the salaries per year. So in order to get a decent pension, they have to be here for.
Well, no, I thought about medical now.
Oh, medical. Wow.
Medical is a very generous program and it's been changed. So, but you can't go. California law is pretty clear on that. You can't go backwards
Well, you can certainly make them. Who makes the contribution today
for what?
for medical?
The employer.
All right, 100%?
Yes.
All right, well, then I'm saying you can negotiate.
Well, not exactly 100%.
You're talking about retiree or active employee?
Active employees.
Depend on different groups. Currently, some are at 90, 94, and 97.
Actually, this is not on the agenda.
Yeah, we should know.
Yeah, let's not go into this. I'm sorry, Greg.
I want to
you know.
discuss it by next finance.
Yeah. They can bring it up
I
on,
still think
you
there's
know, you can bring it up, if somebody notices it at another meeting or a finance meeting, I think that's within your rights, but I'm not sure we should go into this right
And
now.
I would just say this, there are union negotiations going forward at the moment, but I believe those things are coming up. I'm not going to say anymore.
Well, I'm suggesting that if they aren't already coming up, then at least you consider that they pay part of the contribution.
I think these are good comments.
Okay,
That's all.
next
I'll
item.
just record my suggestion.
Okay.
You can do what you want with it.
So Greg, welcome.
I don't know everybody here, so I apologize. All right.
I'm Rose. Hi, Greg.
Who's this gentleman?
Mark Wong, the auditor from Mace.
All right, good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And you know John and Jim
Yes.
and Bill. Okay, anyway, we did defer item number 4 because you were coming late, so on your behalf. So we will move on to that item. Review and discuss FY 2010-2011 interim accounting issues memo from Mays and Associates. So I think we're ready for this.
Okay, so and we've completed our interim audit field work, and so this is basically a memo from us to finance, and finance has chosen to share it with the audit committee. And basically, on the first page is our audit schedule. So basically, that's between us and finance to let finance know the audit schedule on when the books has to be closed. So it's pretty straightforward.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
On your confirmations, are you confirming the 17 million securities outstanding?
All cash investments, all investment accounts and bank accounts are confirmed every year.
So the answer is yes. You
Yes.
are confirming
Yes,
the
correct,
17
yes.
million in securities that we have on hand.
Correct. Yes.
Who do you confirm that with? Who holds it?
The custodian.
Whoever it is.
Yeah, we have Wells Fargo, we have Leif, we have San Mateo, and we also have the custodian
You confirm
account.
those as of year end, or do you?
June 30, correct. Yes.
And that's the year end?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, going on forward, page 2. Page 2 are the internal control potential issues. So basically, our approach is if there are any item that comes up where we notice during interim, we will bring it up to management and then we will discuss it, and hopefully most of these issues will be cleaned up by the time when we come back from final, and they would go away from the final report.
Yeah, I'd like to spend some time on some of these potential issues. I think
Oh,
they're very,
absolutely.
they're very valid. The
Absolutely.
back end, I think it's a little
Yeah.
bit more. But
Exactly.
so there's an opportunity that you've brought these items up. That there's an opportunity to reconcile them prior to the final issuance
Correct,
of the
yes.
report, and that's good. That's
Yes,
a good thing.
yes.
Okay.
And again, the objective is to our objective here is to help the town that to clean up before we come back, so that there's we try to minimize our comment and also try to minimize any adjusting journal entries. So
Okay, so the first one is the monthly bank reconciliation. Who gets notified? Who gets noticed for this deficiency, and who corrects it in time?
So basically down here, for this item, we know that the accountant prepares it, and we know that the finance director Louis reviews it. But that's true, like further inquiry and look at the documents. But what we will prefer, of course, is to have the accountant directly sign on it, so that it's already obvious, so that there's no need for us to anybody else to come in to do extra, so that it's clearly documented. So it's pretty minor, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it seems minor, so that's
Yeah.
can be done. Jim, do you want a pencil sharpener for Christmas? Or? Just one. I know. Not a very.
Custodian supplies. We're not gonna matching chairs.
I will get you a pencil sharpener.
We're gonna have pencil shavings all over the floor.
When you say you test the reconciliation, what is that? How far do you go?
Bank reconciliation from bank statement balance to GL balance.
And you independently confirm the bank balance?
Correct, yes. For interim, no. For interim, we use the bank statement that they provide.
You confirm it once a year?
Pardon?
Do you confirm it at all once a year, the bank balance?
Correct. At June 30, yes.
You do?
Yes.
Part of the audit, annual audit.
Are you comfortable with the bank reconciliation being reviewed in the same department as the person who prepares it?
In this case, it's different. It's the same department, but it's different employees. The preparer is separate from the reviewer.
Yeah, but the preparer reports to the reviewer.
Correct.
I don't know whether there's somebody outside that department that could review it once in a while.
We can suggest that, but that's additional internal control. I agree, but in many small clients, we may have to do additional procedures. For example, in this case, we would test the March 31st bank reconciliation or the December 31st, and then in June we confirm with the bank balance, and we do look at the bank reconciliation again. So.
Is there anybody else in the county that could come in the city that would have?
Let's see.
Say you don't
No.
Unless where you want to come
additional
in.
work as a result?
Pardon?
Are you having to do additional work?
That's for us. In this case, no, because it's part of our planning. So we do not. When we come in, we will plan it. We say, okay, we know how Atherton's control environment is, and we plan our procedures to it. So versus where we come in and we say, oh, okay, we find out that the internal control is not what we expected, and we would do, then we will have to have additional scope. So in that case, it's no. That's that.
The reason I'm asking is I just spent 16 hours in classroom on fraud, so I'm paranoid at this point on that issue. So that's why I'm asking these questions.
Okay. Agreed. So
yeah, I've been burnt myself in my own experience with people doing things that only the trusted employees give us trouble. So the non-trusted employees don't get the opportunity. So it's only the trusted employees.
Yeah.
I had one seal $3 million.
There's only one left.
But I don't like to go to jail.
Yeah.
So
And I'm
Yeah,
not going to
yeah.
lose my
Right,
license.
so there's no one else anymore, so we're.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. Have you ever looked at the TV, those jailbird? Whoa.
Yeah, you can drive in your car.
Yeah, and everywhere I live in that trail for them
You
to
took
find me.
that nice trip over to, where'd you go? You went to Malaysia or something?
No.
Don't laugh, guys, that's how most of
It's
it's
true.
about. People are taking trips, driving cars, stuff like that.
We got all right.
Okay, we're ready to move on. I think that we're satisfied with the prepared
Yes, I am.
sign-off,
I am.
and you can reconcile it internally. Okay, bidding process for awarding service contracts exceeding $15,000. And you came up with...
I hope you found a lot of things wrong.
No, there was only one. There was only one that he highlighted regarding the CSG consultants that did not go out to bid, and it met the criteria of item, what did you say, item 6 and 7. And
Yeah, from what we have. Correct.
so there's and then that was the only thing that was marginally questionable in your mind.
Yeah, well, let me ask a question about that. What about extensions to contracts and change orders? Because they're supposed to have gone through this thing,
Correct.
and they don't. And they don't. They haven't. And if you didn't find it, he said, I got to question the quality of your service.
Page, you guys.
Well, wait, who set the
Oh, this is
procedure?
the
This isn't
interim
an audit
report?
procedure, this
I
is the
just
council
printed
setting the
some,
scope.
Oh, I understand
My
that.
computer's
So what is the
not
intent? Is the intent to go out for bid on extensions?
I think it needs to go to council approval. It's over
Louise, do you have
$15,000.
an extra copy of this?
Well, I guess that's, you agree with that, second involved in that is a.
But anyway, I don't want to bring it up as a big issue. I'm just surprised that you only found a couple little things. Because our purchasing policy, until we get the new one going, which will be hopefully in July, has had a lot of variations.
Well, we're largely already adhering to the unadopted
Yeah.
line. It's just best management practices, and it makes a lot of sense. But I will say on something like this, that this would fall squarely on my shoulders, that sometimes when you're managing an agency, that you have to make a decision between customer service and following a somewhat bureaucratic process, and time is of the essence. So I'm not certain how I would have done any differently.
I don't know if the auditors get involved in this, but we have had problems with bids, competitive bids. One especially that Kathy and I, Kathy McKeeson and I rejected because the bids were considered to be non-conforming for really Mickey Mouse reasons, really Mickey Mouse reasons. And but we're going to award it to a very high bidder because he was the only one that was supposedly conforming.
Or responsive, non-responsive.
And non-responsive. And when we asked Duncan why he was on the others who were much lower in price, huge amounts actually, we invited the guy who was a low bidder to talk to us. And he told us that the high bidder was using exactly the same subcontractors as he would use. This was on the traffic part. And therefore, it was just a paper Mickey Mouse arrangement. And so I think we've got to be very careful on that. And as a result, we rejected all the bids, asked them to rebid, and they rebid, and it saved the town something like $40,000 to $50,000. Because the high bid, either, I don't quite know why that he was accepted, and nobody looked into the actual, what he was saying, because in some of these bids you have to use a certain percentage of your own internal labor, and a certain percentage of your external labor. And, you know, there's a lot of things you can do there that make it look quite different, and this one was one we caught, and I'm not sure that we caught all the others, but I'm just bringing that up. So.
Right. Okay.
You know, I give one example that I think, just so the audit committee knows some of the things that, when they're talking here about CSG, but here's a real life example of where I think a manager has to use some discretion, even if it's non-conforming to a certain extent. You know, we're going through a reduction in force discussion in the city, and there have been days here where the entire building department called in sick. And I've got customers that need to get plans out. And so I take existing contracts and expand on them a little bit. Now, this is cost recovery, right? We're getting paid. We're getting reimbursed for everything we're doing. That's a good example of where I've got to use some discretion in saying the better part of valor on this is I'm going to bend the rules a little bit to do that. So it's not Louise's fault. You know, the buck stops right here when, when something like this is it, you say we need 5, get 3 bids, do all that kind of stuff.
Well, the auditor's questioning whether we should have the procedure.
Mm-hmm.
He's questioning whether we should have the procedure. The recommendation is, since CST is providing substantial services, the town should reconsider whether contract for professional services should go through the bidding process.
Well,
He's raising that question.
I think it's in the best interest of the town to compete. And I
Just
think
generally speaking,
council
I agree.
believes.
I think that they are, for the RFPs that John has sent out at the moment, the new services to be provided, they are going through the bidding process.
99%.
Is that the lead of the general counsel and everybody else, for professional services?
Not general counsel, but although we did go out to RFQ, I think.
Yeah, we got.
We went for bidding, or let's say it wasn't so much bidding, but we went through our committee to have attorneys,
10 firms.
10 attorneys come in with their best shot. And then the legal committee narrowed it down to 3. And 3 then were presented to the council. And the council made a selection to select Bill Connors.
Right, but his future extensions will not go out for bid.
Unless we choose.
Unless we choose.
Unless you
His
don't have the
his
service.
current contract says that it expires in 6 months, and we have the right to either renew it for another year or to reject it and go out.
Right, well, he's questioning whether we should have this requirement for professional services, whether it's a lawyer or some other consultant, whether we should not have it.
Well, most of these professional services can be terminated, I believe, in a 30-day basis.
We've pretty much gone on a month-to-month now.
Mhm.
Most of the contracts are for month-to-month. I don't agree with the recommendation, personally, that says since CSG is doing a great job and they're doing a lot of work for us, maybe we should just continue to use and standardize on CSG. Because we're using Interwest for some things too, so the answer is thanks for the recommendation.
But what is the policy then? That we are going to go out for bid on all extensions?
Not on all extensions, if it's an extension for an existing thing. So right now, today, the building department has, half of the employees or something like that are CSG employees. And so when they need an additional person, they're going to go to CSG and ask them to come in, because today, on a month-to-month basis, until we recompete the whole thing, which John is in the process of at least evaluating and weighing against having in-house employees versus out-house employees. If we need extra people, bringing in somebody from the same team that already knows the process is the smart thing to do.
And John and I have had this discussion actually. I think it's very important to us that if we do decide to have more contract people in here, they should not be coming from one source. They should be coming from different.
What should he review next year? Should he review their extensions or not?
I would say that once we do this right, extensions, I would suspect, should be minimal, because they should be bidding on a contract on the basis of work that they are going to commit to, and I would think it would be very unlikely to be too many extensions.
Can the work in the building department, say what's going on now, what's being considered, be so compartmentalized that you can get different vendors for one job?
Well, we use CSG for several things. It's not
Well, right, that's CSG, but Jim was saying, I'm sorry, I'm losing track of who said what, but somebody was saying, you're the one that's not whittling. But somebody was saying that, you're going to get multi-consultants. Okay, so multi-consultants within one department doing different jobs has worked?
Well, it certainly can work, and I think one of the things that there's been a lot of talk recently about institutional knowledge, but as you're well aware, Rose, California codes for building are pretty well cast in concrete. So what you need is somebody who is very familiar with these codes and other consulting firms who have employees that are very familiar with these codes, and frankly, if we want to split it up, I don't think it would. Frankly, I think the discussion on the loss of
Institutional
is
law.
way overblown, because we're following rules most of the time.
Well, there's some areas in this town that there is, you know, an area of institutional knowledge that is pretty, I think, evident. You know, I know that you think everybody's replaceable, but I mean, there's some. I think I don't want to start getting selective here, but I think in some cases that's valid, and in some cases you're perfectly correct that, you know, rules are rules, codes are codes.
Well, I think we have to stick to what's on this thing for the discussion, because we've got a little bit off base.
Well, we're talking about the bill. Well, we're talking about
so what we're saying
CSG,
is CSG,
and that does bring up the, you know, the bidding process, and then there's the award of
First off,
contracts.
Hopefully, in the next month, there's going to be the new finalized, fourth time rewritten purchasing policy that's now been scrutinized by the attorney, and I'm doing some last thing that's on.
So what changed from
Well,
your version? If it's
Well, after we had done all the red lines, you know, that everybody got a chance to look at, John had, John came in and he thought it would be worthwhile and very commendable that some of the employees that would have to live with it participated in the red team to build one from scratch. They used mine, and they used some things that they'd seen in other towns. They rewrote the whole thing, and then we went through and I did a final edit, and then it went to Bill Connors, and Bill Connors is, he was the attorney. He did some final edits on it, and he passed it back to me last night. So it's our goal, and I think we're almost there. We just got it'll be on the July agenda, but they're already following it. But I think to the answer to this question,
okay.
is that
Continued reporting sections.
yeah, I think you should, but I think but the recommendation just says let's standardize and say our temp agency for any time we need anybody is CSG. We can't do that because already we have a secondary. Actually, we've got minimum of three right now, and depending on what happens with the city, the decisions the city is going to make, there may be a period of time where there's just 2 or 3, and there may be a period of time that, you know, until we decide how we're going to go, if we go a certain way, that there's going to be a multitude, because we may have to go to temporary agencies to fulfill.
How long are these contracts for? I mean, we're talking about, you know, I think we're talking about whether we need to go out to bid again or not. At what? And my question is, at what interim basis?
Well, they're agreed on, the ones that are going before the council right now have a dollar limit on it, but they're on month-to-month basis.
Most of these consultants we have in town are month to month.
Yes.
Okay.
John has structured them so that they can all be coterminous if we need them
Okay.
to be, and essentially they're month to month, but with a fixed monthly rate.
Okay. And so every month you don't go out to rebid again.
Oh, no.
Okay. I think that's what we're trying to get. How often does this?
John has already sent out RFPs for various consulting firms, not just CSG. And he's already got some of the replies in, and I might be misquoting, but I think we're getting some very interesting replies at this stage, which I'm going to save us even more money.
For companies or for individuals?
Well,
What-
for the
what-
things we currently have out, I think we're kind of all over the board. What's out right now is an RFP for building services, which would be plan review, plan check, building inspection, that sort of thing.
Which CSG does now.
Well, it's a half and half.
We actually have an in-house building department. However, as I said, if there was an overload of work, the work was spilling over to CSG, who has a local office, it goes to their engineers to check it when we can't. Now we're going through sick-out periods where no one's at work, so a lot more work is being sent over there. But even in response to that, we've now lined up a total of 4 companies that will rotate through. So the first set of plans that comes in goes to company number 1 with a 5-day turnaround. Second set of plans goes to company number 2. So we're spreading, and that was our sort of response to getting inundated with plans at a time when no one's showing up to work.
Right.
And we will be going out, I believe, for bids on some of the other services, like our planning. So, I mean, hopefully, I don't think it's been done that way in the past, and people are very hungry at the moment, and I'm hoping it'll be very good for them.
If I may add to address the auditor, what they bring up in this interim. Yesterday night, the council approved a month-to-month contract for Interwest, but I think the CSG for the building official, the interim, need to be in the July agenda, because I went back after the meeting to try to look at this response, how to respond to this question. When our CSG interim building official is, the justification is based on the memo from Nadine to continue the service, but that is only based on 24 hours, and the fiscal impact to the council is like close to $11,000 a month.
Okay,
So we need to bring that forward to kind of have set a dollar limit.
Mays Associates month to month as well. Sorry.
So we're in a little bit of a state of flux.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when the dust settles, I think it's going to look
I
a
think
little
that's
bit
fine.
Are you satisfied with the
Yeah.
answer? Do you know what you're going to do?
Okay.
Yeah, because okay, again, my when we are here to give our comment, it's not to just for the sake of giving comments. So I just want to bringing it out there. And so during our testing, so what if it's month to month, and a good example, let's say if it's month to month, and every month let's say it's 10,000. So every month is 10,000. So for the fiscal year, it's 120,000, right? So to a person from outside the reader that comes in and says, okay, so this company was for yearly for fiscal year 11 they got 120,000. How were they awarded that contract? And then it's because it's month to month and it didn't go through bidding. So when you say month to month, it appears to be okay. But when you look at annual 120,000, someone may want to question that. So I just want to make sure that it's between the policy and the council, just to be aware of it and
We're changing.
exactly.
We're tightening up the policy.
Agree.
But I will recommend the CSG interim building official contract to make it clean, at least put it on a month to month on the July agenda like Interwest.
Let's just do that.
And it's not just CSG, it's any disbursements. It can be consultant or public works project.
This is an aside. When we hire these consulting companies, does it defray some of the legal liability when issues come up? They carry some of it. I mean, the town gets dragged in regardless, but okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's a plus.
Warranties and indemnities in the contracts with multiple millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's a plus. Okay, let's move on. Maximum vacation accrual for management employees. Well, this is a puzzle. How did, I thought we all talked about this, and then I think Mark is coming up with, people are still not using up their vacation time.
Can I answer that one? As we get our financial house in order, it's something I want to talk to council about how they would prefer that I approach this, because there's a couple ways to do it. We understand it's a problem, and in some cases it's such an egregious problem that it's going to be a really big financial hit to take care of it. So we have two options. One of them is to insist that people start taking huge amounts of time off, or take one day a week off. We are so small as an organization that if someone is missing from the office, it's really noticeable.
Yeah.
If Louise doesn't show up for a couple of days, holy cow.
Right.
If Teresa's not here for a few days, holy cow. Not that these are people that have, or someone wants to have the gigantic vacation balances. I'm probably going to propose to council that as we get our financial house in order, is probably go and ask for a one-time drawdown on fund balance and get back to zero. And then institute policies of mandatory time off, where people have to start taking it. Although, here again, it does go back, if the chief of police is gone 2 days a week for the next 6 months, that's problematic. And that's one of the people that has an incredible amount of time. So we are working on that. Let's get through our reduction in force problem, and then I'm going to say I will come to council and ask for direction on it.
The industry standard is that generally we can't carry over, you can only carry over 5 days, and it's a use it or lose it.
Right.
If you-
Not in government.
I understand, but we should.
We can make this
The impact of that in
business.
government, though, it carries forward and they retire and they roll those
No,
back
no, I
days.
understand.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge
Yeah.
problem.
It
Because
says there's
if
an
they,
amount
if
in
they,
the MOU.
if they keep all this vacation and they retire, they get paid for it at their current salary level, which means that we all end up, I mean, most companies I've been associated with, you can carry it over for a maximum of 2 years. So in other words, and then you lose it. It's that simple. And
Well,
I've always encouraged people to take the vacation.
And I'm going to do the same thing. First, we have to get to 0, which is going to be a painful hit.
Yep.
And once that happens, then we're going to have automatic, okay,
We can shut it off.
threshold, you
Yeah.
must take the time
Right.
off.
Absolutely.
Use it or lose
Or you
it.
lose it.
Yeah, use it or lose it. I mean, it's.
What is the maximum amount in the MOU?
Currently, other than APOA contract has no cap on their vacation. They can carry forever, whatever they earn. But the management confidential and Teamster is 2 years allowance, like the mayor just said. In fact, of the 7 employees that point out here, 4 of them are Teamster employee, and we already have entered into a side letter agreement with them when full negotiation that they will bring their balance down by November, or they will be cash out. And with this reorganization, we may end up paying them out anyway.
And, you know, and on the PD side, I think we're already down to 17 officers. So it's going to be a double hit. It's not just going to be them not being here, it's going to be the overtime that it generates
Yeah.
from the other officers. So we're going to get a handle on this and get us back to 0 soon. But I do need to go to council and ask for the appropriations to settle this out.
But, you know, a lot of these contracts, in my mind, with the unions, need to be modified. I won't say any more than that. I'll just say,
Good.
I believe this should be modified.
Well, I thought all that was in the works. I mean, aren't they in the work? All this, the negotiation and.
And the words.
But 3 of the groups have already got
What
a
is that
2-year limit.
tape recorder?
Yep.
3 of the groups already have a 2-year limit.
Okay.
Is
Well,
that what Louise just said?
Yes.
So it's just one group.
One group,
But
there's a bigger group.
it also is following the rules that you've got. You know, so
That's an administrative chore, isn't it? The policy's clear.
you're looking at them.
I know.
Oh, good.
But these all have to be negotiated. If we're making changes.
No, it's in the agreement. They've already agreed to it. The unions. Is that right, the MOU?
Yeah, the MOU.
Well, but APOA doesn't have anything, so that's the problem. And that's really where,
Is that what the dollars are?
Absolutely, they have 50% of the times.
Well, but the other 50% is all right. 2 years.
Well, they're not 50%. They're only about 26%.
this is a management issue.
It's not salaries that are the other 50%.
okay. Anyway, we're talking about the specific item that vacation approval and Mark brought it up.
We hear you on that,
Yeah.
and we're going to take care of it.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be just encouraged, it should be mandated that they
Yeah.
take vacation
And
in the
if
future.
not, then give us a good efficiency, okay? Let's
Okay,
move on.
so good catch, Mark, okay. Next one, Cal card holders. Now this, again, you know, we went through this.
As far as I'm concerned, it's completely under control.
This was actually brought up by, I think this was brought up during the last meeting with the audit committee, and we talked about CalCats. I think audit committee mentioned that they wanted to look at CalCats.
Right.
So this is basically the report that came back.
At the last
So, yeah.
meeting, we suggested a total limit for the town of 7 cards
Right.
each.
It's in the motion.
We cut specific people to do it. It was like 23 cards.
Yeah, everything's right except for the
Everything's
police.
right except for the police.
What happened?
What happened?
Well, I disagree with the recommendation, and I respectfully say that I understand that there's this bugaboo about credit cards. The fact of the matter is not one single misappropriation or inappropriate use of a credit card has ever occurred, and it's under the chief's control now that when someone wants to check out a card, they can come to him, check out the card, and use it. It all comes to one spot. All expenditures are in one place for review. There absolutely is not a credit card problem in my mind. And I don't know but if we got rid of all the credit cards, I don't know what purpose it would serve.
Well, no, he's not saying that. He's just saying do what you're doing. He says just.
Well, that's what I said. I don't think there is a problem.
Yeah, if you look at
I don't even know
recommendation,
what we're talking about.
Because we decided at the last meeting that there wouldn't be as many, that's why we're talking.
Well,
And he's saying in some cities, the credit cards are physically held within the city department. And you're saying the police chief is holding.
Yeah.
And that's new, though. That's a new piece of information. I think last year.
Why if he's holding them? Because can't you use the same one?
No, absolutely. This is, we keep going over the same territory. Hang on. The reason that the Cal card is so safe, one person can use it, and we get one bill that has all of the stuff coming in off of it. So if it says John Smith on there, the only person that can use that card is John Smith. So we have complete tracking of where the whole thing goes. And I just don't know what the problem is.
Well, we're not saying that there's any dishonesty or deceit. We're just saying, why do you need so many?
Well, it's because in order to make it so that if you want to send out a patrolman at $30 an hour, as opposed to a sergeant at $50 an hour to go pick up a minor supply, is that you can issue that person a card that he goes and gets out of the chief's office or wherever it's locked up. He goes and makes the purchase, and it's traceable and trackable to that person, and it shows up exactly. And what I'm saying is if we get into only sending supervisors and department heads to go make purchases, is that the best use of their time?
So these cards are in their name. It's an individual
Specifically.
name.
And that's the safety rule.
It should be all in Jennifer's name. She's the lowest paid person. She ought to go on.
And Jennifer, I believe, has a Cal card.
Can I update the committee on the latest
Yes.
development?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
What's the latest development? I would have thought that John would know the latest. He's in charge.
I know, that thing is...
Careful, Louise.
Huh? What?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Because when I get this, and John been so busy meeting with different things during the day, didn't have a chance to update him. I talked to the chief. If it's acceptable to the committee, that's why I bring it forward before we take action. We're going to reduce the 9 car from police department to 4.
Oh, good. Okay. Next subject. That's it. All right, there you go, John. That's it. That's the latest
I feel like he
development.
was in control, doesn't he?
Okay, so this meeting has become a bargaining venue.
Let's move on before John changes your mind.
Okay. Good. This is my deal, too. Okay, outstanding building permit deposit, closeout.
Oh, I was told that's done.
No, it's not. It's not that.
Dennis says it is.
Who? He doesn't say it is. Did you read the...
Dennis told me yesterday that he had done a lot of progress on this. Is that not true, Louise?
Or is that memo he wrote?
I'm not certain
He
what
told
road
me.
it is.
It sounds like all he did was pass it to a bunch of attorneys, and they all kind of blessed off on something.
No.
That's not the case.
Building Parks Police report that they have completed the initial purge of all past due deposits on file with the town. Attached to the report reflects those activities on success in completing the first phase of the process. And here it is the disbursements
There
that
you
you
go.
have to pass around.
When did you get that?
I got it last night at 11:30 p.m.
And what is it? So does it say? Tell
Why
me.
why didn't we get it?
You don't have to read it, but just tell me. All have been refunded?
Yeah, what's the deal?
They've got 41 letters out, 31 second utilities, whatever that is, road bond to 205, let's see, 25 CG deposits totaling $32,574 were refunded as of 6/15/11. 65 CG deposits totaling $125,000 to be refunded by finance still.
How much did we put into the general fund?
Have you made that final calc yet?
I'm waiting for his.
Well, there's
We
only
haven't seen it yet.
157 out of
Come
600.
back.
Well, what he said is, in the purpose of these letters, the letters say that your money will be forfeited if
In
you
60
don't get
days.
back with us with 30 days.
Oh, 30 days?
40,
I thought 60.
You know, it's like
I think
35
anything
days.
over 3 years have already been forfeited.
Yeah. Oh, he already.
So this is the last
So were they forfeited without notice, the 3-year people? Have
That's the cheating law with California, yeah.
they? Okay, so that 3 years, we're not even going to notice.
Into the general fund.
Okay, so he's starting from 3 years ago,
36 months, yeah.
and we got some responses, you're saying?
Yeah.
So, okay, that's a good question. Out of the 674, how much has gone to general fund then? I mean, how
I
much?
think it was 162,000.
Really?
I remember that number.
I
It
don't
was
know.
something like that. It's 150, 160.
Why don't we find out and we'll send everybody an email.
Right, that's good.
Okay.
I mean, this is good.
Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
get some.
This is,
Yeah.
this is cost more.
We spoke about
You'd be frustrated there, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, because, you know, this has been going
on for 2
on.
years at least.
Hey, we've been taking
Kathy and I
action.
started this.
Yeah.
Okay, but we've been taking
Well, then
action.
it's like-
You guys are stopping coming.
I'm also the critical, okay?
We've been taking action. Jim and I and John are
Yeah.
kicking butt and taking names. Stuff is happening here.
Okay.
Break out the champagne.
Well, wait a minute. guys.
Yeah,
He's
progress.
saying there's $674,000 that's deposited, and 273 of it is old. Now, you're telling me that of that, 157 has been refunded? That was the numbers you gave me earlier?
That I gave you?
Yeah, you just read it.
Well,
It's 132,000 and 125,000.
Yeah, the way this is written, it's hard to say. I don't know if that's the number that has been refunded or that's the number that has gone, that has been funded. It says 25 CD deposits
All I know
totaling
is finance hasn't.
32,000 has been refunded, and 65 CD deposits totaling 125 is to be refunded. So I'm not quite certain if that's pending check or something on there. I think what would be good to do is, now that we're starting the refunding processes, we'll send you a cleanup email about where we stand in the process as of today.
But if those numbers are accurate, then the difference is 120,000 that still hasn't been refunded, that's over 2 years.
It's entirely possible. I think a pretty high number of people don't even know what their C&D deposit is.
Well, that's
And
what
look at it
those
and
letters,
say, what's this?
those letters are,
But if he's sending out letters for 125,000,
right.
some of that will come back to, I mean, some of that money will end up put in the general fund. Some of these people will say, give me the money back.
Mhm.
Right, right. And I think a lot of people don't even know that the money exists because it was part of their contractor fees.
Mhm.
They didn't realize, what, I didn't put any deposit down.
So hopefully we'll get quite a
I
bit
see
more.
the contractor put it down for him.
Yes.
So basically, the lawyer said that we can, the money that we are keeping is
Well,
ours to
we're
keep.
fighting
We're not
that
going
bill
to
for
get into a
$200,000.
problem
I
later.
think we should get this money as quick as we can. not-
Greg, we've been saying that for 2 years, and it's just.
Yeah, but it's being more dire now than it has been in the past.
You know, we're blessed with sort of a new management philosophy and mercifully a terrific attorney, and who's working with us. And that's what you're hearing is, I think, from some of the old, from the previous attorneys firm had a lot of problem with this.
Mhm.
The new attorney feels perfectly comfortable with proceeding just how we are. And that's why it's moving along quickly now.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, you know, what we deposit is really ours, and it's not going to be, there's not going to be recourse later down the line in this area because people come out of the woodwork with things. Number one. Number two, you know, in reading Dennis's policy and procedure, I did find some loopholes. You know, I asked him some questions. I think it needs to be cleaned up. I think that if you want to move forward with this efficiently and not have these issues, I think it's got to be made more clear what the process is for this town, so the people who do put in C&D deposits know what's going on and what is expected of them. It wasn't that very clear to me in reading the
He
policy.
was working off the previous administration's.
Well, that's why we're here, people not knowing. So just reading that, I thought it had to be cleared
I
up.
would agree with that. I think that a lot of folks here are affluent enough to have someone else handle it for them, so they don't really realize what they're paying for. But we're taking a look at all the deposits anyway, and whether or not they're even appropriate to have, you know, C&D deposits and things like that anymore. If that's even in the realm of something we should be doing. So, and I agree with you. It should be clear. It should be transparent. But I'll tell you, we're going to keep a lot of this money because people aren't going to have any idea that it's actually their money.
And we have been assured legally
Mm-hmm.
that if we follow this procedure,
Mm-hmm.
it's the money that we put can be put into the general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that it's blessed off
That's
by
what
the
we've
attorneys.
asked.
That's what we've said all along.
Yeah,
We've said
yeah.
it consistently.
We're gonna get this one
We just
line.
wanted to get the money moving one way or
Right,
the other.
right.
And as far as I'm concerned, until something is sent to me and for me to book it into revenue, that's what it counts. So until I get that paper.
So it's being done. Is that the report then? It's being
Correct.
done.
Yeah,
Okay,
In progress.
Okay.
good.
good.
Next one.
Why do we need the HR module?
We already have it. It's just for segregation of duties. So, Mark, you want to explain? Maybe the next one.
Right.
I won't speak for the auditor.
Correct. And I think when, as part of payroll testing, we look at it to see whether if the person who process payroll is the same person. If it's the same person that controls the whole process, meaning from pay rates, payroll increase, to all that, it should be a different person who inputs payroll database from the person who's running payroll, because so yeah.
Is that what we do?
Right now, we have the accountant doing the whole process, and this is to have this module. Someone else can control that, set a new hire, terminate employee, so that the same person is not creating employees, setting the pay rate, changing the pay rate. And I think with the budget approved yesterday, the plan, I remember the last motion, the Vice Mayor asked for me to bring back a plan of how to implement this to get this resolved. And I think I discussed with the city manager with the approval of the budget yesterday night. Jennifer at the police department is recommended and will be a full-time position for next fiscal year. So the 0.25 of her time will be taking on the human resource.
So in other words, you implement.
We are going to implement now with.
Okay, fine, great.
Yeah.
I thought we already did implement, but I guess I was.
Reminder for appropriations limit. Do you want to talk about this, Mark?
Part of it was finding enough staff to actually do the.
Right, yeah, I know, I was just confused, John. I thought.
The part of it was that Eileen left because she was doing this, but she wasn't doing it. And then,
Yeah, who is the human resource person?
not to throw anybody out,
I know, that's
Eileen was supposed to do this.
Yeah.
there's no.
Nobody,
And even said she was going to do it. And write an HR manual.
nobody.
Well, we got an HR manual and we're doing it.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, next one, Mark. Reminder for appropriation
Yeah, and then-
limits. This item was discussed, but can you talk about this? I don't
Basically,
even know what to ask.
I think I brought it in just for it's just a reminder, and because last year the appropriations exceeded the limit, but California law allows you to aggregate your appropriation in 2 years, and if your total appropriation for qualified capital projects are still below the appropriation limit, you are okay. So the point of reminder is just to remind the city to monitor the Atherton, the town to monitor it, just to make sure that by the end of at the end of June 30, 11, the total that it should be under the appropriation limit, and I believe it is.
We should be.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, next body of work. You want to walk through this into
The rest of it,
degree?
basically, this is just
Yeah.
these are just FYI items. Just
Yeah.
it's very technical, but basically, in fiscal year 11, the town is implementing GASB number 54 on all the governmental funds. Fund balance classification will be changed. Basically, there's no more reserved and unreserved and designated and undesignated. So. But I believe Louis Ho has already went to the council, right?
The council adopted that yesterday.
The council adopted already, so.
From
Okay.
John.
So just
So other than that, we don't need to know anything more.
right, yeah.
Okay.
Unless you have questions on it.
I have no questions. Do you have questions? No questions?
It's yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty detailed for me.
Yeah.
Um,
It's very detailed, but sometimes there are questions on it. So.
You want to talk about
no,
item
no.
6?
Yeah, do you want to talk about which one?
Oh, item number 6.
666.
Set.
Oh, set next meeting date. But no, Mark, do you want to talk about, is there anything on interim accounting issues?
They just for you to read up, right?
The rest of them, correct.
Issues. Okay, this is just FYI for us.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
nothing
Yes.
to talk about. Okay. Basically, next meeting date and time. It sounds like sometime in December, right?
When you're coming back? November?
November? I thought you said December.
No, October, end of October.
We,
What's going to...
if I may, we received a suggestion from the public that
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
that there might be if you meet twice a year, 3 times a year, or whatever it is you're doing, that it might be a defined date, so that people would be aware of that. Just a suggestion that came through from the public. So like, you meet on March, October.
I think it's hard to.
With all the meetings that we have, and the other people, I'm not sure that's going to work well. I think it's much better for all of us in this meeting to agree on a date that we know we're going to be.
Right,
And then notice the quote public.
right.
Whether it was one individual or two individuals.
I did my duty and ordered on you.
No, that's fine. So we've taken you for that information, but I don't think
So
it's.
what do we, somebody got a date, what is it?
End of October, because I'm going to be on vacation to burn my balance down, so I'll be gone.
I will be.
I don't know who's
How are
paying
you
for
affording
that.
the vacation?
Yeah, how are you affording this vacation?
What's
Trusted employee.
$1 American dollar equals $7 in Hong Kong, so I can live comfortably.
Flying business class.
Oh, my kid want that. No, we stuff in the bag behind the
Okay, you
in front
guys,
of the
enough.
toilet.
I'm going to be gone the first week of October.
Will be because they are not coming
Yeah.
back to
What is
the
their-
middle of
October.
October, so it will be end of October.
Why don't we do it the day after the regular council meeting?
No, that's not a good day. It's not
Yeah,
a good
everybody
day
like
because
this.
this morning I spend after the council meetings, I go up to the peninsula, and I can't spend all day doing government stuff.
How about October 27th?
Well, the council meeting's on the 19th of October.
So 1 day later is
We have it on Halloween, we all come dressed up.
Do you expect MDNA to be
No,
ready?
I got a better outfit. I think we should do that, that would be fun. I'm gonna do my
Bill,
dress.
okay, we're passing on that.
What is your-
Last time you promised to bring green beer for
Why don't we
whatever.
do-
I brought beer and.
What's November 1st?
Oh, you
No, what's November 1st?
What is this preliminary?
to audit.
What is this preliminary work done?
Yes, it is.
Final is going to be the middle of
Oh,
October.
October, correct.
But I-
14.
When will your
14.
statements be ready for?
I like the 27th. Anybody have any?
Well, maybe you should meet in November if he's coming in October.
We were going to provide a draft to Louis.
Early November.
I don't-
not sure.
Had to be 5 days before. No, you were going to give me a draft, give me 1 week before the last week of October. So
Correct.
Yeah.
what's November 1st?
That's bad. I'd
When do
like
you
to do
plan on
end of
issuing
October.
report?
End of October.
Or
What's
middle of
that? End of
November?
October.
It's like
Correct.
this.
27th would be
Um,
27th, that
Correct.
whole week. So
Middle of
whatever.
November.
Will you
Ask-
be ready
ask
to be
Mark.
with us in the first week of November?
10th?
Yes. Yeah.
Huh? Where?
First week of November.
But I will not be.
She's not gonna.
I'm not here.
But you correct.
Oh, where are you gonna be? When are you going to come
Fourth.
back?
The 23rd,
Of
What?
November?
When are you leaving?
the 5th.
Why don't we do it on the 4th?
How about the 3rd, that's a Thursday?
I might not be here.
Why don't we do it? I think we can do October 27th, even though if the MDNA is not ready.
Not
They're
ready,
more
okay.
concerned about because the MDNA. Last year it was without the MDNA. It was a
Yeah.
management
So, yeah.
discussion and analysis.
Aren't you gonna finish it before you leave, the MDNA?
I will, but it may not be completely ready for the committee. But last year I went ahead and finished that at the end.
Well, a lot of the stuff was boilerplate stuff.
Yeah.
Can you just bring in the things that are
It's not gonna
safe?
be
Yeah.
boiler, it's not gonna be boilerplate this year with all that you're doing.
No. So what day have you got? October the 27th?
I don't know that.
That works for me.
When will
Anybody
your
have?
MDNA be ready?
What is November?
I was looking for somebody.
Oh, November?
I tried to get other people
November.
to apply. for
You're
the
leaving
job.
on the.
I think the 2nd will be good. November 1st or November 2nd.
Okay.
I thought you said 27th, November.
27th.
Because he want to see the MDNA.
Let's put on there. All right, all saints day,
27th.
November 1st.
November
I'll
1st?
be here.
About October 31st.
31st is great for me.
What's
Let's
that?
do. That's a Monday.
Oh, that would be good.
What?
October 31st.
That is Halloween. All right.
That's
I'm
okay.
in for that. October 31st.
If I need to crank it on weekend, I would crank it on weekend.
What
So-
time? What time?
2 o'clock?
2 p.m.
2.
Right before trick or treat time.
Yep.
Audit committee.
Louis, we have 2
We're
weeks
discussing Candy and for you.
between the last of your work and this.
All right.
If October 14th is our last day of field work, and
So you need more time?
All same.
Is that enough
Yeah,
time,
well,
Mark?
no, but we're not doing October.
If it's
31st.
enough,
Unless you want to do it on
I
the,
can, but
Yeah.
I will squeeze it in.
Is it bad for you? Because
Okay.
I know you
Well, how
want to
long
leave
is
town and
this?
everything.
Unless you want to do it November.
If you can't, just go to the next week. Just go.
What's in the next week?
All right.
Okay.
Make sure you're dressed up.
October is.
Right.
You're leaving the 5th, 3rd?
Will not be the 4th.
Yeah, 4th. So you
So-
can.
I know. Maybe November 1st?
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
November 1st.
Okay.
Arrested. Did you see that email from?
Now, what you do?
November 1st is working better for
What?
their.
Give you more
their work.
time, Mark?
yeah.
First or second?
Let's do November.
I thought we
Second?
said October 31st. That's what you.
They not enough time to do the internal review.
That gives them.
Come on.
Hey,
Hurry up.
you know, it's-
Yeah, November 1st.
Tuesday,
November 1st?
It's one day more. Have it on the 31st.
audit committee, Bill.
Is that one day more?
Yeah, there's one, just one day.
You can,
Ah, then
I've been signing
31st
the-
is fine. Huh?
I have another engagement.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
right.
signing up.
Party. He's got an holiday.
So November 1st,
All right,
2 p.m.
November 1st.
I wonder, is it appropriate that we excuse Luis for a minute and talk to him privately?
Yes, please.
Because there was also the audit planning that wasn't closed.
Okay.
Say Rose, November what?
First,
First November 1st.
2 to 4.
I don't know if we normally do this, but it's always good to ask you if there's anything you're concerned with that we should be aware of as far as the finance department.
Correct. I think this is perfect timing because we have questions on fraud considerations. So those usually, and I think every year I've done that with the audit committee. So it's so on my side, no, I have no concern.
Have you got any concern about the employees, the level of commitment, as far as their competence or anything?
I think our concern is right now. I think fiscal year 11 there seems to be a lot more management turnover.
Should this be on?
No, it shouldn't.